Hello, and welcome back to another video. Today we will be discussing a different topic. We will be going over one of the Roman Empire's greatest losses, more specifically the Battle of Allia, which took place 390 BCE, which ultimately led to the sack of Rome. But before we start, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so that you're notified when we next upload. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This battle occurred shortly after the expansion of both the Gallic and Roman territory, and also a conflict concerning the killing of a Gallic leader by a Roman ambassador led to the two armies marching out and meeting each other at the river Allia, tributary of the Tiber River. When the ambassadors of the Senans arrived in Rome and demanded the three Fabii brothers be handed over to them, the Senate was pressured by favoritism not to express opinions against the powerful Fabia family. Livy wrote that those whose punishment they were asked to decide were elected military tribunes with consultation powers, heads of state for the coming year. The Gauls were enraged that those who had violated the law of nations had been honored and marched on Rome 130 kilometers or 81 miles from Clusium. Livy wrote that in response to the tumult caused by their swift advance, terrified cities rushed to arms and the country folk fled, but the Gauls signified by their shouts wherever they went that their destination was Rome.
There are many differences and discrepancies in account as to how many soldiers fought on that day, but estimates say that the backbone of the 15,000 men strong Roman army was the legion. The 6,000 Roman citizens of the legion fought as a phalanx of hoplites. Leading the Roman army was Quintus Sulpicius Longus. On the other side, the leader of the Gallic/Celtic forces was Brennus, leading well over 30,000 Gauls against the Romans. Nearly all the Gauls were light infantry, protected only by a yard-long oblong shield and perhaps a helmet. The latter was decorated with horns, crests of animal designs, or the Celtic symbol of war. They arrived in chariots but would fight on foot or on horseback. The Gauls wielded swords, spears, axes, javelins, or slings. With their hair swept back like the mane of a horse and with their droopy mustaches, baring their upper body or stripping completely naked, shouting and waving their weapons about, the tall Gallic warriors were a fearsome spectacle.
The battle ensued by both armies marching out on each other. The Romans placed some reserves on a flank, perhaps in hopes of outflanking the extremely disarranged Celtic warriors. But Brennus caught wind of this and initiated combat by rapidly sending forces to attack the Roman preserve's position on the hillside. Both sides engaged in fierce combat, and at first the Romans stood their ground. But eventually, after being overwhelmed by the sheer mass of the Gallic forces, the reserves started to flee. Some returned back to the main Roman force, whilst others headed back to Rome. This caused the main Roman forces along the battlefield to be shaken, and as this instantly, the main forces lead a charge against the Roman front and left flank. Longus ordered their main front to keep on fighting, regardless of the fact that their reserves were scattered and had no possible strategic maneuvers to overcome the Gauls. The two armies fought viciously for a while. But the Gallic forces, with their larger numbers and unorthodox fighting style, had a clear overhand on the Roman army. The left wing of the Roman forces were in a terrible position as they had their backs facing the Tiber River with no safe space to back up and strategically fight back. The Gauls, using their larger numbers, then slowly backed up the Roman left wing until they had no choice but to flee by the Tiber River. The Gauls procked on and chased them, leading to a mass amount of them being killed. So much so that some accounts, such as one from Livy, claimed that most of the Roman forces had died with their backs turned or by drowning rather than fighting. Following this, the main Roman front also started to give in and began fleeing back to Rome. Plutarch wrote that the Gauls encamped near the confluence of the Allia with the Tiber, some 18 kilometers from Rome, and attacked the Romans suddenly. There was a disorderly and shameful battle. The Roman left wing was pushed into the river and destroyed, while the right wing withdrew before the Gauls attacked from the plain to the hills, and most of them fled to Rome. The rest of the survivors escaped to Veii at night. They thought that Rome was lost and all her people slain. Both sides suffered mass amounts of casualties, but neither side lost any general. There were reports of a group of Roman civilians who took part in this battle, who were underskilled compared to their fellow combatants and legionaries.
At the sight of this easy victory, the Gauls refrained from chasing them in fear of a potential ambush, which never came. There are many different accounts concerning the direct events that took place in the battle, but the main fact was that the Roman army was outnumbered and fled. Many dying whilst running and others whilst drowning, with only a small amount of them escaping. After such a grueling defeat, the Gauls charged for Rome, which was mostly empty, as a lot of the citizens had left following this battle. But they did face some resistance from a Roman force, which was led by General Marcus Furius Camillus, who after many grueling months of fighting and disease and hunger being spread on both sides, Rome was freed, but for a very high amount of gold. And that's it for today. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you're notified when we next upload. See you next time.